Living, working, and traveling in more than 100 different countries, I want to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people don't. This lifestyle is romanticized, and I think the nomadic lifestyle or living overseas as an expat has a lot of pros, but it also has a lot of cons. And that's kind of what I want to focus on is the downsides of digital nomad. What comes with this lifestyle? What are the things that a lot of people don't talk about? And after doing this for 15 years all around the world, I think I have a unique perspective to share for anyone who's interested in doing this, or maybe you already are doing this lifestyle and you want to see what kind of the longer term impacts are. So I'll preface this by saying, hey, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, but this is the reality, and especially from my experience in other people I know doing this for a longer period of time. So essentially, I'll break it down into a few different categories of the most common things that I've noticed myself. And also, I've picked up a lot of these things from running study abroad groups where you kind of see what the students go through and you try to help them prepare for that journey before they actually go and do it. So the first thing starting off is just kind of the homesickness, being away from friends and family, and being away from that, support network that you're essentially grown accustomed to. So whenever we would take study abroad students overseas, we would kind of walk them through, hey, first you're going to have the honeymoon stage where everything's like shiny and beautiful, and then you kind of get used to it, and then reality sort of sets in. So I think this is fairly similar to what a lot of people will go through on their digital nomad journey or living overseas is that first week, month, 6 months, or even first year for some people, it's really that honeymoon stage where everything's just awesome. Life is great. And then eventually I think what happens with a lot of nomads is once that starts to just like taper in, once that growth starts to taper in and it starts to flatline, what I think a lot of people do, and I've been guilty of this, is we just move to another location. So then we go through this constant cycle of 6 months to 12 months living in a place kind of starts to get boring, or you're ready for something new. Then you move into a new area. And so this can sound great, like, hey, nothing wrong with just living in that honeymoon stage for as long as possible. I've been guilty of that. I've done that for years and years, and it can lead to a really good life. Now, the downsides for this sort of pattern come in a lot of things, right? You're constantly changing your environment, your friends, your relationships, and you're having to start from scratch in almost every new location. So, what I've noticed about this lifestyle that can be pretty tough is, it's hard to leave a good friend or a good family member, but imagine doing that every 3, 6, 12 months. It can really create a barrier for you over a period of time where you essentially just don't want to make new friends. You don't want to like integrate because they're going to be leaving, in a few months. And so, this sort of perspective, I think a lot of people don't talk about. And essentially, what I found to kind of overcome this is in certain destinations, there's going to be people who stay longer, right? For example, when I lived in Georgia, one of the great things there was you would get a 1 year visa. Georgia's off the beaten path as far as countries go. So a lot of people were coming and at least spending 9 to 10 months there and looking to spend years on time there. So it really didn't have a transient community. And unfortunately that sort of changed over time with the current situation there. But in general, certain nomad locations are just going to be more transient, and certain locations are going to have a mixture of both, where maybe it's 80 or 90% transient, places probably like Ibiza or Vegas where a lot of people come in, but those destinations also have a subsector of people who spend long term there. So what I've tried to figure out is how can you find and connect with those longer term people because you're going to be spending a lot of upfront time to make new friends, build a community, kind of build and develop those relationships. And essentially, if they're changing every 3 to 6 months, it's going to be not a waste of time, but it's going to be hard to sustain that over a decade period of time. So what I found is you host events, you invite people from all walks of life. And again, I'm not saying you don't interact or exclude these people who aren't going to be living in your location for a while. But again, you get to meet a mixture of people, and you can also connect with those people who are maybe they have planted roots. So a lot of my friends here in Samui, they've been here for 2 or 3 years. They're planning to build a family here. They already might have a family here, so those types of people are pretty committed to staying in Thailand longer. And that's a great signal that those people are just going to probably be based here for the longer term near future than somebody who's, hey, I'm here for 2 weeks, I'm just passing through. And those relationships are great. I think everyone needs to find a balance of what sort of blend they want. Maybe it's 50-50, 70-30. You just got to figure it out for yourself. And every destination is going to be a little different. So the second biggest issue I see with people living overseas is the missed opportunities, missed events, and missed family and friends back home. So I know it's a little bit different and kind of similar segue here, but the biggest issue I see with a lot of people is they live overseas, they lose connect with close friends, family members. Maybe they miss those first weddings. Maybe they're not there when somebody's sick. It can get pretty dark. It can get sad. And in general, I guess the way that I internalize this and I justify it, whether it's correct or not, is I kind of look at it from this perspective or lens. If I lived in the US, I likely wouldn't live in my hometown where most of my family and friends are. Nothing against it. It's just not a place where I would see myself living in the States. So once you kind of factor in that, then you factor in, okay, what do all my friends and family members that live in the US, how connected are they actually? And you just kind of take the average. So my average calculation is usually the major holidays, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, and that lifestyle that they have only allows them to spend a few weeks kind of off and spending time with family. So what I've sort of realized and justified is like, hey, even if I was back in this situation, I would likely still only be seeing these friends and family for a certain period of time. And this is how I've been able to sort of justify and counteract or improve this to get more, let's just say, quality time with family and friends. So the first way is my family and friends luckily love to travel. So we usually plan a 2 week or 4 week trip. So, for example, with my dad, he came over to Thailand for 2.5 weeks. We traveled to Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand, and he's going to be coming back for 3 weeks. And then I spent 2 weeks back in the US around Christmas time. So again, that's more time than most of my other, friends and family that live in the US get to spend with their immediate family or friends because they're creating, because I'm creating unique travel experiences with them. I'm also just having a more special experience than if I was just at home kind of living that normal day-to-day life. Both are great, but this is how I've been able to justify it. And luckily with a lot of cousins, friends, and family, they also love to do trips. So we've had a lot of people already come and visit us here in Thailand and also planning trips around Europe and other parts of the world. So the other way that I help do this is, with Zoom, with Skype or, virtual calls, FaceTiming, and WhatsApp, I essentially can have a much more connected reality with people that I want to. And again, as you grow older, it's more of a quantity over quality game. So you essentially try to go a mile deep instead of a mile wide with a lot of friends and relationships. And it's not to say you just cut off those other people. Like there's people that I haven't spoken to for years and then I meet up with them and it's like a day hasn't passed. You'll have those friends and family members that are super supportive, but they just don't need that day-to-day sort of contact. So that's kind of how I look at it from a friends and family relationship. And I think that's the hardest thing for most people to overcome because you don't have that support network within an arm's reach. There's the time zones, there's the bad internet, there's like all these other things that kind of go into it when you're living from overseas. So those are the two major things that I see a lot of people struggle with while living overseas. And those are kind of my insights on how I've been able to try to improve that process to turn a con into a pro. But again, it's never going to be perfect. You have to work at it. And I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you do, I'm going to leave a few other videos up here that you might be interested in. And if you enjoyed this style of content, leave a comment below, subscribe, and let me know that you enjoyed it. All right, I'll see you in the next one.